My name is Susan. I'm from California. I grew up in a very small town, and when I was 15, I became pregnant. And I had just barely turned 16 when I delivered a healthy baby boy. Arrangements had been made to put the baby up for adoption, so I only saw him for a few minutes, and then he was taken away, and it was all arranged with a private adoption agency. I grew up in an alcoholic family where my parents, they were functional. They were semi-leaders in the community, but they were definitely alcoholics. And that sort of family life led me to be depressed a lot as a child from an early age. I think that the reason that I got pregnant, I knew how you got pregnant. And it really was a date rape situation that got me pregnant, and I was blacked out because of too much alcohol. But I still think that I had some desire to be pregnant, because I knew better than to drink all that alcohol or go in the car with this one boy. I think that I wanted to be loved, and I wanted somebody to love. And I had older friends that had babies, and of course, you know, there were always people around with babies, and I saw that if you had a baby, you had someone to love, and loved you. I did not feel that my mother loved me, and later in life, she has told me that she didn't love me, so I was correct. I couldn't believe that I was pregnant. I went to a doctor on my own. Here I was only 15. I didn't want to go to the family doctor to find out if I was pregnant, so I went to this gynecologist that I had never met before. And he told me I was pregnant, and he called my mom and had her come in. And then he told her. And then she told my dad. And when I tried to express my feelings to my dad as to why it happened, I mentioned how they didn't seem to care what I did and who I did things with, and they were, they were always fighting or they were drunk. And he said that they should get no credit for this happening, that it was all my responsibility. It was all my fault and all my responsibility. So that was the last time that he and I shared about it at all. My parents wanted me to have an abortion. I didn't know what an abortion was. And so when my mom explained it to me, and that there was a doctor who would do it in a nearby town, I said no. And so then my mother told me later that my father said the baby had to be put up for adoption. I was sad about that, but I felt that things were out of my control. So I was pregnant for my junior year in high school. I stayed home and was homeschooled, so to speak. One time when I did go out with a friend and we walked around this small town, it was reported back to my mother that I was walking on, with a friend, and that I was smiling and laughing and happy. And then my mother told me, so I got the message that you're not supposed to be happy because you're pregnant and you're 15. And so then I just stayed home pretty much. Didn't go anywhere, no movies, nothing, no shopping, nothing for, let's say, 5 months. No one prepared me for what childbirth was going to be like. I knew it was called labor, and I knew it was going to be painful, but no one told me how extremely painful it was going to be. Fortunately, I had a short delivery of only 3 hours, but during that time I was extremely frightened because I thought I was going to die from the pain. And years later I asked my mother why she didn't tell me how painful it was going to be, and her answer was, well, you were so young. I never have given birth since, and I think I was traumatized. A doctor told my mom, I don't know if this is true, but the doctor told my mom, she told me, that a lot of women who give birth at really young ages in bad circumstances, as I did, never get pregnant again. I did not meet the parents that were set up to adopt my child. I was told a little bit about them and sort of gave my consent. During the time I was pregnant and afterwards, no one ever spoke of it. It was as if it never happened. I went back to high school as a senior, and girlfriends, boyfriends, no one ever brought it up. That was the way things were handled in those days. You just never talked about it. I thought about my baby definitely on his birthday every year and at different times. I found I couldn't really enjoy seeing other women have babies. If I went to a baby shower, it was because it was really something I had to do. It wasn't because I wanted to go to a baby shower. I did not enjoy baby showers. The pregnancy caused, like, part of me was missing, and that's never really changed completely. When it finally came to the time in my life when I was ready to have children, I was nervous about being pregnant because it had been such a negative thing before. But I did try to get pregnant, and I had a number of miscarriages, and I had an ectopic pregnancy where I had to have surgery. So once it was determined that I wasn't going to get pregnant and stay pregnant, adoption was the obvious choice. And I was very open to adoption because I had already been part of an adoption process. And I felt that it would be like I would treat my adopted child the way I wanted my child that I gave up to be treated, with a warm, loving home, and just like they were your biological children. When we adopted our daughter, she was the first one that we got. She was 10 and a half months old, so she wasn't an infant, but she was a very well-adjusted baby and very happy and beautiful and perfect for us. So that was terrific. When I went to the airport in Washington, D.C. to pick her up, when the social worker handed her to me, she stared into my eyes for a long time. And I felt like she was saying, "Are you my mommy now?" And she was used to seeing people with dark brown eyes, Korean people with dark brown eyes. So I think she was looking into my eyes, and it was easier for her to make the transition because I had brown eyes. Her adopted dad had blue eyes, a mustache, and glasses. And when she looked at him, she screamed. And it took about 3 days for her to be able to accept him and not be frightened of him because he looked so different than what she was used to. Shelby was about 2.5, and we adopted her brother Garrett. When we went to the airport, she was getting a brother, and so she got the brother, and he was perfectly beautiful and fine and made the adjustment to us well. And after we had him in our house for about 3 weeks, she told me, "He can go now." I said, "What do you mean go? Go home?" And she said, "Yeah, he can go home now." So she thought that the newness had worn off, I guess, and it was time that she get all the attention again. But they grew up as brother and sister, and just had their closeness and had their separateness, just like any other brother and sister. I decided to try to find my birth son when my kids were probably 3 and 6 years old. I knew I could find a site on the internet that would search for him for me. So I looked up that site, and they told me some things that I needed to do first: to send a letter to the county courthouse where the county in which he was born, giving all my information, so if he went to the courthouse, he could easily contact me if he went looking for me at the courthouse. He didn't. So I let it go at that. I just did what they said to do, and I always felt that if he wanted to see me and be involved with me, I would be thrilled. If he didn't want to see me or be involved with me, then I would respect it, because I wanted him to do what was best for him. 10 or so years after that, when my kids had both gone off to college and I was by myself and divorced, I decided that I would see if I could find him, figuring that it would take a few months for anybody to find him. And so I went on the internet and I found a search angel. By the 4th day, he called me. He said, "Now that I have all this information on your son, would you like me to call him?" So I said, "Yeah, go ahead." I was shocked because I didn't think it would only be 4 days. I thought I was going to have months to process everything, but it was 4 days. And so he called my son, and my biological son said he wasn't interested. So he called me back and said he's not interested right now. I said, okay. And, you know, and I honored what I'd always said, that if he didn't want to meet me, then that was okay. One Christmas day, I was sitting around the house with my children and I think my ex-husband, and I said to my daughter, "I know his name. It would be really great to just see a picture of him." And my daughter said, "Well, you know his name?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Well, let's check and see if he's on Facebook." And sure enough, she put the name in, and within seconds, there he was. So then I had a picture of him. Then I had his email. So then I contacted him that way. I think it took a year at least. I'm not that good with the time frame, but it took a year at least after I found him for him to want to meet me. Well, my eyes are burning. I didn't expect to be up this late, but I'm very excited, and I can't wait for Richard to get off the plane and finally meet him. He still hasn't told very many people that he's met me, but some of the people where he works know. And he hasn't told his adopted sisters that he's met me. Our relationship is kind of a secret on his side, but it's not on my side. He's met my children. Now he has relatives in California, my brother, my sister, my mother, still alive at 93, and he has not met them. And I haven't gone to California to introduce them. So we still haven't completely opened up, either one of us opened up our lives to each other. But we've done pretty well. When I was thinking about the adoption when I was still pregnant, I thought my baby has a better chance with another family than with my family. And that was naive because I thought every family was going to be better than my family. And that's not true. But it did work out that way, that he did have a good family. It wasn't perfect, but he had a good family. If I had advice for birth mothers, if you've already given up your child for adoption, I find that child. If you can, do what you can to develop a relationship with that child. If you are pregnant and going to give your baby up for adoption, I think you should have an open adoption. For you, being the person who's giving up the baby, and for the baby, as they're growing, having a relationship with their biological parent is important. They didn't have that sort of situation when I was 15. It's taken me 50 years of thinking about adoption to come up with what I'm gonna say. I've given my baby up for adoption. I know that baby who's now 50 years old. I've adopted 2 children. I know what they've gone through. So I've been on both sides of this issue. And my conclusion is that it does hurt the child. And it does hurt the mother. The people who really win in this situation are the adoptive parents. But that the baby's hurt and the mother's hurt. But it's a solution to a dilemma. And it's a viable solution. I'm not against adoption. But I know it hurts the adopted child. And I know it hurts the mother and father who have to give the baby up. Would I do it all again if the circumstances presented themselves? Yes. I would give my son up for adoption. And of course I would adopt the kids I have now. So, that's it.